It's not uncommon to hear people say that they've tried web advertising and it didn't work. Specifically, they tend to say they tried AdWords and it didn't work. The reason that it didn't work, though, is probably way more complex than they are willing to admit or really understand. Obviously, when people think of advertising, they're thinking of running ads, and obviously that is a huge part of it. But there's another huge part of it, and that's the question mark here. We'll get to that in a minute. But if we just deal with advertising for a minute, in order to have a successful advertising campaign, we have to deal with creatives, targeting of those ads, bidding, how much we're going to pay to show those ads, monitoring the whole process, and then retargeting. Let's start with creatives. We need 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creative sizes. This is for display advertising, obviously. Obviously, each of those ads is going to need graphics and copy on them. And then we're going to need a B set. So we have an A set here and we need a B set. This is for A/B testing. You've got to A/B test. It's absolutely imperative. Then when you find an A/B winner, you need a C and you need to test against that. And maybe you need to do that 2 or 3 or 4 times or 5, depending on how satisfied we get with our conversions. We cannot just assume that the winner of an A/B is the best we can do. We need to take it far enough along to make sure that we're getting the maximum conversions. But we can come back to that one. We also need, before we can show those ads, we need to get those creatives approved. And approvals really involves both the creatives and then the landing page, because a creative without a landing page is half the equation, and it's not going to be approved unless the landing page matches the creatives. Now, from an effectiveness point of view and from an approval point of view, the creatives have to match the landing page. And if you make an offer in your creative, you have to be able to fulfill the offer on the landing page. Beyond that, you can't do a lot of things like be deceptive and so on. If we look at some of the guidelines for our creatives, you can see that the technical guidelines aren't really too difficult, but they want to see some other things that aren't really listed here. Things like they want ads to be branded, and they want the ads to be of a minimum quality. They don't have to be great, but these ad networks have clients. Their clients are the sites. So if junk is showing from an ad network, they're obviously worried about losing their site relationships. So they have to be somewhat decent. Landing page, however, is way more complicated. This is the other half of the getting your creatives approved, and it's really getting your campaign approved for display. A lot of things you can't have, but bottom line here is you have to have exact offer in the creative. It must be actionable on a landing page. If 15% off is offered in the creative, 15% exactly must be advertised. So that's an example. Lot of other details, though, that they want to see. The bottom line is they want quality landing pages. Landing page quality is probably somewhat more important, or at least for sure as important, but probably a little bit more important than banner ad quality. For instance, your creatives could just be text, and that might not be great quality looking, but when you land on a landing page, it has to be pretty decent, especially in AdWords, but really in any network. Okay, so that's just to get our ads approved to start showing. But of course, before we start showing them, we also have to figure out how we're going to target. And the process of targeting, we need to create an outline, figure out approximately what we want to do, how we approximately want to target, and then we have to figure out our factors, are really our segments. In other words, how we're going to actually target, and how we're going to what segments we're going to use to target specifically. In other words, what categories, what demographics, what data providers are we going to use. And then once we've created all that, then we need an insertion plan. An insertion plan is how are we going to group That's what these things are. How are we going to group our ads? Because remember, even when we're A/B testing our creatives, we're also A/B. We also need to be A/B testing our targeting, and that can be the more variables we have, obviously, the more complex it is. We can't just assume that one targeting that works is the best. So as part of our insertion plan, we have to come up with some different targeting options so that we can A/B test targeting. And then finally, once we've created our insertion plan, then we actually have to go in to the platform and create groups, ad groups. So we might have these creatives uploaded 10, 15, 20. We could, theoretically, you could have the creatives re-uploaded 100 times. It just depends on what you're doing. But and then, of course, we have to target our groups and our creatives together with A/B testing. So A/B testing groups to A/B testing creatives. So that's a quick overview of targeting. And then as part of our targeting, we have to figure out bidding, and that's going to depend on our budget and our targeting factors that or really our segments that we've created up there. Also, though, when we're doing that, we have to make sure that we're putting our bids in properly so we don't go over. People have spent hundreds or thousands over by mistake by not being careful there, so that's pretty important. And then we need to monitor our ads. We do that by some stuff we'll talk about later, but once we've monitored the ads and figure out what are working, we're going to go and look at where the ads are running, and we're going to call out some of those sites that aren't working. Those that are working, we're going to leave, obviously. We're going to adjust bids, especially for the sites that are working. We might add a targeting group of the sites that are just working and adjust our bids accordingly just for that. We're going to suspend some campaigns. We're going to suspend some creatives. We're going to suspend some bids or some targeting groups. We're going to suspend some sites, as we already said. So that's what we do with our ad monitoring. And then we also have retargeting, and that's obviously the power of our first targeting is that we now have a retargeting database. So those are the people that click. We're going to retarget to those people. And there's a number of things that we need to do or should do to make this work with retargeting, and that is branding. We have to worry about branding. We have to, if we're doing an event, if we were originally targeting for an event, we want to remind people of the event via retargeting. If we're doing an offer, we want to re-offer if they didn't take the offer in the first place, obviously, or maybe we need a new offer. And then the idea of lead nurturing, which we do talk about here a little bit later, but lead nurturing is really the most important thing that we're going to do in our advertising, and that is to create a relationship with our advertising. We're not advertising to sell something. We are advertising to create a relationship. The relationship leads to the sale. So the advertising leads to a relationship. A relationship leads to the sale. Okay, so that's advertising. So it's easy to understand why somebody might leave out some or all or many of those details. Not going to leave them all out, but and why their campaigns might not work. But what's behind the question mark is really the issue of why probably their advertising campaigns aren't working. And that really is the subject of conversion. And conversion is much more of an art, but really it's a process of testing. So let's start with competitor research. If we want to, I could go over all these. I will go over all these, but in the interest of time, let's just get into it. First thing we need to do is we need to research our competitors. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. If a competitor is doing pretty much what we're doing, we want to do what they're doing and then just do better. So if it's AdWords that they're using, we can do some keyword research, see what they're advertising on. If it's Facebook, we can do some research in Facebook. There's some tools that let us do that. If it's display advertising and mobile advertising, there's some really awesome tools out there that let us reverse engineer their campaigns. We can find out exactly how long they've been running particular campaigns and particular creatives. And then, of course, in that process, we're going to look at their creatives, and then we're going to analyze their landing pages, just try to understand what they're doing. So what are they using for lead bait? What is their copy, their funnels, their offers? Are they doing retargeting, and what are they doing for lead nurturing or follow-up, depending on what they're doing? Interestingly, by the way, the idea of copywriter is that they copied writing from other ads, or from other advertisers, that was the way that term copywriter got started. Pretty interesting, because that is still what we're doing, is looking at what our competitors are doing and using what they're doing and making it better. Okay, so that's our competitor research. Obviously, that can take any amount of time and effort. Now, we need, after we show an ad, it has to go somewhere. And it goes to a landing page, but the landing page lives somewhere, and that should not be on an advertiser's corporate site. It needs to be a mini site. The mini site is designed specifically around the campaigns that are going to show up on the mini site. So if we're using a category of products, then we want the mini site to help to educate and support the offers that are on the landing page. Educate about the offers and support the offers that are on the landing page. Even though on the landing page we don't really want people clicking off the landing page, and that landing page has to be designed to prevent that, there's some required elements on a landing page that we have to have in order to get creative approval, but from the ad networks. But also, some people just simply are curious, and they will go and look at the main page of the domain. And if it's on your corporate site, they're going to go to your corporate site and go searching all around and get lost in whatever is on there. We want consistent messaging. That's what a mini site does. So we have to create a mini site. Obviously, we need a relevant domain. We need to design it. We need content. We need terms and conditions on there. In other words, legal terms and conditions. We need a privacy policy. These two things are required for the ad networks, and then quality. We have to have a minimal quality for the entire mini site. So obviously, if we talk about any of those, they'd take a while, any of them. But altogether, we need a quality mini site. And then we put a landing page for our campaign on the mini site. Obviously, we need to worry about copy on the landing page. And we also want to split test the landing page, by the way, but probably we don't want to split test all the elements, so we'll come back to that. Our elements might be video, might be graphics, certainly our call to action, and then what is our action, or really what is our bait? What are we asking them to do? What are we hoping that they do? And so we might, on our landing page B, we might split test some of these elements, or we might split test a complete design. But again, we have to have A/B testing to have any hope of being effective. Okay, then we have something called action bait. So that is, we want somebody that lands on our landing page to do something. So we're going to have a call to action that is either going to be sign up for an event, download a PDF, a free something, a trial offer. But notice we don't have on there offer. In other words, we aren't really interested in offering anything. So back when I said in advertising that we're going to re-offer, really it's re-offer our action bait. And then if we're doing an event, there's all kinds of different events we could do. It could be a product overview, it could be an industry interview, like an industry leader interview, it could be some insider info we're going to present. It could be an offer, but again, I'm not talking about selling anything offer. I'm more like, come to our event and you can get a free 30-day trial of our product, or come to our event and we will give you something that we normally charge for, whatever, any kind of offer like that. Then tutorial could be an event or a workshop. Usually these are going to be webinars, but they could also be recorded webinars. Potentially they could be actual live events as well. They could be one-on-ones. They could be 1-on-10s or 1-on-5s. They could be mastermind groups, elite meetings, that kind of. So lots of possibilities for events. So anyway, we need an action bait, we need an event, a PDF, a free something, a trial, something like that. And then once they've clicked on our action, once they've taken us up on our action, we may offer something for them to buy in this offer. Now, this is not our main offer. This is not what we're actually trying to do. There's a concept called a tripwire offer, and that is an absolutely irresistible offer that anybody would be a fool not to take. You don't want to use that in every case. Again, it's something to experiment with, but that would be something that, clearly they're going to spend, say, $200 for anywhere else, and you're going to offer it to them for $10. Why would you do that? Well, because if you figure out the cost of gaining a new customer, creating that irresistible tripwire offer may be incredibly cost effective. There's all kinds of statistics that say creating a customer is far more valuable than any form of advertising, because any other form of creating market share. In other words, once you already have a customer, getting more from that customer is 1,000 times easier, or whatever the number is, than trying to get another customer. So a tripwire offer is really effective for that. You may ask them to sign up for something else. It could be an elite group or an elite newsletter, or something that is, again, pretty irresistible, but maybe doesn't have a cost associated with it. You might also be a trial, not a trail, and you might ask them to do a social action like share your company on Facebook, if that was relevant to your business, or it might be a comment on this, or like this, or a Google share or a tweet or something like that. Obviously, that's not going to apply to every business, but it would apply to some businesses. Some businesses have been really effective with a contest opportunity on their thank you page. Anyway, the idea here, bottom line, is you're after the action, you want to take advantage of the thank you page to engage them further. It's an opportunity to engage them further when they're already thinking about you. Of course, it could just be a thank you, but that wouldn't be very effective. An initial email. Once they've taken the action bait, they're going to get an initial email. That's usually how you deliver the bait. It could be in the action thank you. But it's really at the point that the education begins. The education process is the process of building the relationship and the nurturing. Again, the ad simply begins the relationship. The relationship is nurtured with education. So you're educating them in an email with who you are, what you do, what your products are, but you're not selling them, you're educating them, although you are laying the foundation for the sale. So that begins in the first initial email, and we'll talk about that again in a minute. But the very typically overlooked and cutting edge aspect of conversion is marketing automation. So when somebody takes our lead bait, we want them to go into a CRM, contact relationship management system. We want to track their actions, and we want to create a profile for them. So the profile is who they are. And even when they've done something as simple as request a download of a PDF, they are now somebody that is more targeted, with more potential than they were before. So we want to know who they are. Now that profile can be created, the profile of who they are can be created with automatic tools. Based on, say, their email, we can get some information. If we happen to collect a phone number, we can get information. If our form is more intensive, we can get more information. But there's also a manual part, and the manual part is if we can get their name and where they are, we can do manual research and fill it in on their profile in the CRM. But a really powerful aspect of this is once we have their profile, we can track their further actions. Obviously, we know their first action, but their further actions. And their further actions are going to be things like opening additional emails, taking additional actions, further interactions. And we really want to track all that, because when it finally comes down to the time that you're trying to close them, you want to know what interactions they have completed with your company. So let's show this real quickly. This would be a screenshot in a CRM system. Okay, so you can see here what this looks like. This is a profile of a potential prospect. So some of the activity that we've automatically tracked for this particular individual is he downloaded something called How to Sell the Deal. He opened an email that was titled Meet Our Team. He attended an XYZ event, and of course we originally added him as a contact. Now as this fills out and we get more and more engagement with this particular individual, he is going to be more known to us, and we're going to be able to sell to him better. Okay, that's our marketing automation. There's obviously tons more we can do with marketing automation, but that's a beginning. And then analytics. We have no idea how really well our campaigns are working, obviously, without analytics. We know we can determine our conversions per source, and that's going to tell us something. But we want to obviously start by click tracking. We want to know, we need to track every click to each landing page, so we know every traffic source. We need to look at our visitors' flow on the site. In other words, where do they go and what do they do on the site? We need to understand where our visitors are coming from. They're not all going to be coming from a campaign. These are things that analytics tell us. We want to know the last action a visitor took on a site, and to do this, we're going to use two basic tools. One is Google Analytics, or another analytics vendor, but Google's great. Google Analytics is great, and it just gives us all kinds of details about the user experience on the site. A lot of statistics. But there's another process that we're going to use, which is called heat mapping, and that's a newer form of analytics. And heat mapping tells us what exactly a user is doing on the site. So in this particular case, there's a lot of heat right there on that. And this particular site, I think, was called something Mums, Baby Mums, or Net Mums. So this isn't our site, but we have heat map, a really hot spot right there under over pregnancy. So most people that are coming here, here's what they're doing. They're clicking on pregnancy, they're clicking on that word, or they're hovering over that word. They're spending a lot of time right here on this website. They're spending a lot of time right here. Okay, so what is that telling us? It's telling us a ton, an unbelievable amount. One is that this stuff is pretty unimportant. We know that where they're going is mostly on to right here, because this is our menu. Now, obviously on a landing page, we wouldn't want all these options, but in this particular case, they have a lot of options. Now, let's say we further heat map things and found out on the pregnancy page that they were getting 3/4 of the way down the page and giving up. Well, that would tell us something. That would tell us maybe the page is too long, the content is turning people off, and maybe that would be a place that we'd really want to optimize. Now, if we're getting a lot of people clicking on pregnancy, but we have a nice big fat call to action down here, and people aren't clicking on our call to action, but instead they're going somewhere else, we've got a problem that we need to fix. And actually, we could probably come up with about 30 different problems that heat mapping might show us. The bottom line is it gives us a better indication of what a visitor is doing on our site as a whole, so our mini site as a whole, but also on each individual landing page. So we use the information that we get from our analytics to do optimization, so conversion optimization. We're going to do the landing page splits, but our analytics is going to be every bit as important. In fact, our analytics are going to help us do landing page splits. But specifically, very specifically, to reiterate, with our analytics, we need to do iPath. So what are the important things for our visitors? What are they doing on each page of our mini site and in our landing page? What is their exit behavior? Where are they leaving the site? It's especially important if they're not taking our call to action. Friction analysis. If we have in our call of action a form that they need to fill out, are they getting halfway through the form and bailing? If we split test two forms, one form's simpler, one form's more difficult, is the simpler form going to work? Most of the time, yes, but not necessarily, because if it's a higher value proposition and they just have to click to get it, they may not, or they may not value it properly, and the process of nurturing will be less effective. So we have to consider friction and then form optimization. If we have a form and we require certain information to be on that form, that doesn't mean that there's only one form design or one form process. You could break the form up into multiple pages. You could autofill some things. So our analytics tell us how people are doing with our forms. Okay, so we've got somebody to take our bait. We've got a very optimized conversion process, but we still want to increase our attendance if we have an event. So we need to have a process in place for email event reminders, possibly phoning them for event reminders, and then retargeting for event reminders. And really the most important part of the post-take action process is the nurturing. And the nurturing is building a relationship. We're going to do that with email sequences and retargeting sequences. The level of complexity possible in each of those elements is incredible, but basically in our email sequence we are going to teach them about us, about our product, about what we're doing, about why we're here, why they should care. We're not trying to sell in our email process. The selling is up to the salespeople. The selling is up to a sales event if it's specifically designed for that, where we would ask people to attend a sales event, either virtual or live, but we're not selling in the nurturing process. The retargeting process, again, we're doing many things like branding. If they haven't taken off our bait, we're reoffering that or offering different bait. We are, of course, reminding in retargeting, and we're basically keeping us front of mind and the front of their mind. So bottom line here is the reason that somebody says the reason that somebody has failed with advertising is probably not just the advertising platform. The process of actually getting an ad to work, an ad campaign to work, is an intensive process with a million moving parts, and it's very complex. Hope that helps.